right? Basically, there's only two people that we all put. So one of them is the obvious name. It's Uzi. It is the Chinese player who played for basically most versions of Royal. And then there was the year in OMG that we don't talk about. So, Dom, start us off on this one. Uzi.
I mean, Uzi, like, number one, he was competing in a much worse region and still able to like carry games versus top Korean teams at the time. I mean, he made 2 finals back to back. Insane mechanics, and I think that he hit the highest level of AD carry, where like when you look at other players on the list, they're going to be more like the traditional AD carries where, you know, they get all the gold and they don't take much risk. But when Uzi was peaking, it's like he's somehow the first one in the fight, and the way that he played, like his ability to walk forward, output as much damage as possible while also dodging forward, but also dodging skill shots, and like playing to that level is the highest we've ever seen. So I think that just like his peak mechanically, like the only thing you can take away from this guy is accomplishments, right? The fact that he never won Worlds. He won LPL. He never won Worlds. He also had that weird stint with OMG where he didn't look as good as he normally did. But like obviously he's resource heavy. Like every I mean, I guess that's another knock that you can use on him, is that like his teams played around him primarily, and that comes to,
I think it's an argument for him.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, yeah, so I think it's an argument for him too, but I'm just saying that that's something that people will consider is like, well, when Uzi's on your team, you can't play like to the other side of the map because he's going to run down the game, which I don't necessarily think is true. Like, I think that he could play with like a really good fucking team, but it's like the only way that they're going to win a world championship was if he like 1v9'd every game. So, I mean, he didn't have a world championship, but for me, like, I've never seen that level of mechanical excellence for the time with the level of aggression from an AD carry.
All right, here we go. So I think that if you look at 2013 and 2014, so first off, he had a very long and very successful career. Unfortunately, there are knocks against him because he was injured and had to take a lot of time off. But even when he came back, he would take that time off during the regular season, come back, and then dominate playoffs. When he was in back-to-back world finals, his other teammates are fucking literal who's now, right? Tabe's become a successful coach. Insec was like on the downswing of his career big time. Like who the fuck knows who Korn and Cola are anymore, which were their solo lanes. Now, that said, in 2014, they got lucky because they got into the opposite side of the bracket of both Samsung teams. And I do think they would have lost to Samsung Blue had they actually hit them. And we didn't have the Samsung semifinal, all Samsung semifinal. But even then, managed to make it to the actual World Finals twice. His teammates were complete dog shit, never ever did anything else after those seasons that they played with him. The entire team realized that it was his job to carry. Everyone in the entire universe knew that they were going to try and let him carry. And you know what? He still fucking did it because no one could stop him. I mean, I think it's pretty clear cut that he's the best, but in the same way that I think it's relatively clear cut that Faker is the best mid laner, even though I think Rookie in more recent years has done things to catch up. I don't think anybody's even close to this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's not even like where it's like, is he the best AD carry of all time? It's like, where does he fit into the grand scheme of best players that have ever played the game? And for me, I not only have him as the best AD carry of all time, I have him as the second best player to ever play this game.
Right, here we go. You ready for the devil's advocate?
Yep.
The seasons when he made the World's Finals weren't even his best seasons. The problem is no one watched the LPL back then. I did because I was obsessed with Wei Zhao and World Elite, so I always used to watch, especially all the top teams, right? During those 2 years, the best AD carry in China was called Name. It was not called Uzi. Uzi had a Worlds buff. He did it every time. Then what happened was, later on, there's this middle period where he's in the RNG teams, right? And he's going each year. And in these years, this is mental. Remember, the LPL by about season 5 onwards gets pretty competitive. He is one of the biggest fucking playoff chokers I have ever seen. Like, he's always in the bloody semi-finals. And mate, if this guy goes to a game 5, bet your fucking house on the other team. Doesn't matter who the other team is, by the way. The other team could be like EDG with players not called Deft that you don't even know. It could be fucking WE without Wei Zhao. We're talking years later when they had fucking Shi and so. Those teams all managed to get the win somehow. In fact, he had to basically meet IG, the other serial chokers, the KT Rolster of fucking China, to get his titles. That was the time when he got his big LPL title. He's only won 2 LPL titles. I don't know if a lot of people know that. After all those years when they think he was the best. Secondly, the whole angle of like, you know, he could have played the other style. Well, he went to OMG and they tried to make him do that. They were like, right, you're on Sivir, mate. And the team utterly collapsed. A team that famously played without a bot lane and was playing through top side. And They put him on. It just didn't work. So what really happened was, in my opinion, this is why I always thought it was stupid when people just ignored this comparison. He was the forgiven of China. He was the guy who was like, right, AD carry is the best role because I play. I win every lane. Give me my champions. Everyone does what I say. You hard play through me. Jungler comes every single time I say it. If you don't, I will just die or I will kill the other guy. And then secondly, the other thing to say is, because he was so brilliant mechanically, to me, if you watch him in team fights, he is just winning off being a genius, like physical player. He is unbelievable mechanically. Like, he is not, in my opinion, calculating everything in some like super sick way when people would slow it down. Like, no human could do that, in my opinion. Like, there's very few players had like a mind like that. In fact, there's other players I've got on this list I think actually had a better mindset for like target selection, and then I go this order. And we'll get to them in a minute. I
totally agree that he was entirely arrogance and muscle memory.
It was so, listen, he was the most box office fucking AD carry of all time. That goes without saying, you know. Basically, here's the problem. Basically, Uzi was Mike Tyson, but he wasn't Muhammad Ali, if you get the comparison there.
Sure. Yeah. That's apt.
I mean, I would just say that, like, sure, you can make that comparison, but when you're able to execute it that many times, it's like you'd rather have that than the guy that has like perfect target selection any day, because he
Depends
is
what my team is.
Depends what your team is. I mean, on
the other players, you were arguing like they had everything. Like Jankos, why didn't he win LEC? This motherfucker had the whole team play through him for like 7 years. Why has he got 2 LPL titles? Why has he got 0 Worlds titles?
I mean,
he has an MSI title.
He does have an MSI title, which I mean, counts. It's with a grain of salt, right?
Like ropey ones, of course. Yes, of course.
It's one of those.
Yeah. Look at Dom here. See, he's like hating on score, but he loves Uzi.
Yeah,
similar kind of results, buddy.
Similar results. I would say Uzi has a longevity over.
What is the longevity? What are you talking about? He started playing in like 2011.
Yeah, but I mean, like he wasn't the same level. Like I'm evaluating score as a jungle. So like to me,
years you mean?
Like, yeah.
Yes.
Well, to me,
season 5 is score, right?
Yeah, season 5 is when score starts. For me.
Yes, fair enough.
So Uzi has, I mean, he was playing since like even season 2, right? Like Uzi has been playing for a long fucking time, even when he was like too young and like all that stuff. So I think that the thing that I appreciate the most about Uzi is like in those clutch moments, he would make plays that no one else could make. And I think that is super valuable when you go to talk about like who's the best ever, because there was points where like he was like, there's Vayne clips that you can go watch from LPL that are just out of this world. And then you talk about
there's the highest highs of any ADC, of course. Yeah,
highest highs out of any AD carry. But it's crazy because like he was playing at like a better mechanical level, and like he was having like more insane outplays in like the 2014, 2015 era that you're seeing some of the best AD carries like have in the world now. Yeah. Like he was actually so far ahead when it comes to those types of plays. So for me, I think that the things that count a lot to make up for like the things that, like when I compare him to score is like obviously score I think only has 1 domestic title, right? He has 1 LCK.
Yes.
And Uzi has 2.
As a jungler, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and then Uzi also has 2 world finals, and then he also has an MSI championship. So like he has the credentials over a player like score.
I would just say this as devil's advocate though. Since you said before about like the games of, let me think, who was it? Who the fuck what? Was it Nagori? You said like the games he throws go against him. This is the problem with the LPL. And this is why I don't claim to be an expert in the LPL. I pick and choose the games I watch. If you do that, you will never like fully know the LPL players, because the problem is they always played too many games. So the problem is this, right? Everyone, I used to even have the YouTube channels where I would watch all these. Everyone watches the highlight games with Uzi carries. Here's the problem. There are games where he's in the same position and he just straight throws the whole game as the AD carry with all the eggs in his basket. Like he has Vayne games where he just fucking like rolls right into all of them, double F style, just gets deleted instantly, and he will just throw like, I'd say like a third of most of the games until his peak years, like I'm talking like season 7, season 8, season 9. Before that, he just has games where he just throws the whole game, mate, like mental ones, and games where he's just abusive with his pick, like pick something that just doesn't make any sense in the meta, and you could pick like, you could have picked like Caitlyn, but he just forces a Kalista
like Ezreal or something.
Yeah, some ridiculous ones. So like, I just think as well, he's a player where people don't know it. He's in some ways closer to what the Shy is in top lane, in my opinion. He's not like the Smeb that I think people think. It's just a consistency in the years. I see him as more like he has bad laws as well, especially because he's demanded he put everything in his basket.
I felt like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, like, since he's had such a long career, I feel like he's gotten better at that as time's gone. Obviously he's retired now. So like, I'd say like agreed. Season 8, season 9, he was
also very, very young, to be fair, at the beginning of his career. He was like 15 or something. So to be fair, like as he became a young, like 20 some plus old, that's when he became legit. Sure.
Also, I think, it sucks when you have to consider this in any kind of like sports or esports perspective, but his injuries can be held against him a little bit because unfortunately, like that is an inhibitor of your greatness. It forced him to retire. It forced him to miss a shit ton of time during some of those years.
Allegedly, there's other reports, right? There's other reports that he's not actually as injured and it's more just that he didn't want to play. And that's like what they Yeah. So, I mean, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but yeah. So, I mean,
okay. Yeah, go on.
I mean, I would just want to talk about the second one.
I can hold both things against him, Dom. The fact that he wasn't playing is just what I'm holding against him. I don't really give a fuck what the reason is.
Yeah, go on. Just that point,
well, I just wanted to talk about like, so who do you guys have second? Because I assume that the conversation we're going to get into next is going to be like a ruler versus Deft conversation.
Yeah, basically the only one that all three of us have as well is ruler, and then we're going to get in that. So let's do ruler first then, because here's the thing, right? I think you set it up perfectly, Dom. So I'll cue you up. Ruler essentially is if you're thinking, like I said about the roles in basketball, you're thinking of what is the prototypical AD carry. In this case, Korean AD carry. Like this is ruler, right?
Mm-hmm. It's like mechanical excellence, but then also like the consistency that didn't occur with like other people. Like to me, I feel like in his peak years, he was like what everyone wanted Deft to be. Like where it's like you're consistent, you got like all the resources, like you're gonna carry the game now, right? And then he would just carry the games, and then. Like, yeah, I mean, I think that he was probably the biggest reason why in season 7, Samsung ended up winning Worlds. Like, I thought that the fact that he was just better than Bang, and like Bang was throwing in some of those games in the finals, and he wasn't throwing. So like when he would get his advantages, he'd carry them through. So like, I just think that Ruler has pretty much everything you want. He has the peaks, right? Like, one World's biggest peak you could ever have. And then I think that even now he's so mechanically excellent. Like I would say he's the best AD carry in the world. This year, I would say for like the last like, I don't know, 3-4 years, he's definitely in the conversation.
You think he's the best this year?
Yes.
Still very good.
I think Ruler is the best AD carry in the world this year.
Let me ask you a question though, Dom, because then again, what I'm trying to do, by the way, if you notice, this is a little tip for anyone out there who does talk shows. What I do is I try to keep track of my points and the other person's points so I can understand where they're coming from, what their angle they're making. I don't just say you're wrong, right? So what I'm trying to figure out with Dom here is this, right? Let me put something to you, Dom. How many LCK titles Ruler got?
0, right? I don't think he's ever won, has he?
Nope.
Never won LCK.
Yeah. So
now listen, that's not a problem for me, mate. I've had scores, my best jungler, like even though he won one, he didn't win Worlds, So, but I'm not going the accomplishments angle. But it seems like accomplishments do factor for you. So does that knock against Ruler?
Definitely. It knocks against him, but like, I mean, obviously, there's just how high you value them, right? Like you can say that, like, so for me, even though I think that there are times where a regional league could be tougher than Worlds is still going to always be the biggest accomplishment in my eyes. Like if you
prestige, of course, yes.
Yeah, for prestige, right? I don't feel the same way about MSI. I think MSI is significantly overrated.
See, I take your thing about MSI, the point you made on Twitter the other day. I'm like, I always just felt that way about all international competitions. I was like, this is news.
Yeah, but for me, I just think that like Worlds, because of like the level of like intensity and the fact that there's
LPL leveling up, LEC leveling up,
LEC of like the fact that it's at the end of the year, like that is the final like patch that people will play on. For the split, like that is the ultimate, right? So to me, like that's more than domestic titles, period, just because of the prestige that goes along with the tournament. And the fact that he's never won LCK definitely matters, and that's essentially why I don't have him as the best of all time. I mean, if he had the LCK title, if he had like 3 LCK titles and then also won Worlds, then I'd probably have him as like the best over Uzi. But for me, like he had a high peak, but I just think that like his level of mechanical excellence is like really, really insane. Like he's almost like the perfect AD carry when you look at like how he fights.
Yes.
He's like the better version of Deft, basically, in terms of style. Like Deft was always the more conservative, the kind of early conservative player. He and like Imp were on very opposite ends of the spectrum. Except he's like the better version of Deft in my mind. I agree that his titles are kind of lacking, and even it's hard to say this because I agree that he was probably he and Ambition were the biggest parts, and him more than Ambition to their Worlds win. But also, like I said, I think you could argue that iteration of Samsung was maybe the worst team to ever win Worlds. That wasn't like season 1 or season 2, like before League was really a global game.
Yeah, it's definitely the worst team to ever win Worlds. I agree with that.
So, that's kind of a knock against him in a lot of ways. And also, as flawed as Uzi was, like, sometimes I just feel like Ruler lacks the kind of killer instinct or the sheer like eye test that's like, holy shit, this guy's on another level.
Yeah, that's going to be my point, basically. Because I've kind of taken the battle on this one, because this is my angle, right? I actually am not that big a proponent of the idea because he didn't win LCK. It's like a big deal. Like, I think go look at his teammates. His best teammate ever was crowned before he went off the boil. That's it. Aside from that, like, shut the fuck up. Kuvir was never like some god fucking top laner. He basically had like weird junglers his whole career. In fact, they had a jungle problem where Ambition was just like a fucking Bengi character just hanging on, and then the Haru guy just never fucking like inherited the throne. His support player, listen, he was still pretty good at times, I guess, but he's never some monster.
I think support now is like the best he's been compared to like the rest of the league, because
his support was never even the best in Korea most of the time.
I think Core was good. The difference is that I think that Life complements Ruler well, because when you have a player like Ruler who is not going to throw his advantages, but he's not going to be the type of AD carry where he wins the lane like completely by himself, 50 CS up, and is like auto spacing the guy under turret. He's the person that's going to take like he's going to just take a bunch of 90-10s over and over again. You need a player like Life that's more volatile, that's going to just flash in after flash in and just give you opportunities to kill, to get a player like that going. So I think that Life is probably the best support he's had for him at this point. It just sucks that like the top side of the map just seems to like not be able to really get it together when it matters for that team.
Right. The other thing I would just very quickly say is the reason why I also don't hold it against him, because as I say, I don't think his teammates were ever actually that really great quality. Like, they weren't even in many finals, if people don't know. And then I think you look at him, and because he plays the perfect AD carry style, this is the same knock I have against Reckless, although it's not about playing style here. It's just about the idea that you play AD carry, like you farm up, you just never go behind in lane, and you win the team fight. If you can't get to the team fight with half decent like chance to win the game, you can't carry the game in that scenario. That's actually where Uzi, for all his flaws, where he throws the game, does win you a game that you never supposed to be able to win either. He breaks the game and just says, fuck it, I'm just going ham completely. Ruler's more like a Korean mentality of like, I will walk the fucking path I'm supposed to, and if that path involves chances where I can win the game, I'll do the correct things and I win the game. If I don't, sorry, I have to lose the game, and I did what the coach asked. So, like, I have that angle. Right, basically, then we have Deft. Then it's just outliers. So me and Monty both have Deft. So what is the angle on Deft you want to say, Monty?
So I think that Deft has had some really low lows, and there are a lot of, I think, reasonable things you could say about kind of playoff performance Deft, but also his regular season Deft is amazing most of the time. And even when he dies in lane, the fact that he can, I mean, he was sometimes, no joke, like not an exaggeration, would literally in the white versus blue matchup die like 5 or 6 times to imp in the laning phase and still win the game and hard carry his team. So there have been moments where he can bounce back extremely effectively. And I think that the longevity of his career is very important. But I do think that he has kind of under-delivered when it's like, oh, Deft's coming back to the Korea. Here's the super team with Deft. And he hasn't really lived up to the billing.
Yeah, he seems to me like he seems to be kind of like a choker, you know, where it's like,
he's a massive choker.
You want,
in the playoffs and worlds, for sure.
Yeah, you always just want more out of him. And like, I guess he doesn't choke to the same degrees that other players choke. Like, he might choke and still like trip over and win an LCK title or like an LPL title along the way. So like, it's going to be weird because like people that are the historic chokers are people that are probably like never won and stuff like that. I just always feel like I always like am disappointed by Deft's performance, and I do hold him to a super high standard. Like I definitely am definitely impressed by his overall play in regular season, and then I'm like, let's see what happens, and then I'm just like, oh, that was Deft, okay, like it was Deft. You know, I never like get that feeling where I'm like, wow, I'm experiencing greatness right now. Like this is like some next level like AD carry, which is like weird because you see him at times and it's like, I don't know, there's people that overperform when it counts. Like even like Perks as an AD carry in 2019. Like when it mattered, like he was pretty fucking good. And like he would play the champions that he needed to play. And I just feel like just Deft is the fact that he's a choker just puts him under the other two for me.
Here's the thing, I definitely agree when he came back to Korea and then even when he was with EDG, but the World's performances, I think he has some mega chokes then. I think there's times where he just does not show up to the fucking server, because the problem is, to me, like Deft actually basically, again, was someone who like the trajectory keeps tracking, like, right, they're ready to go back to being the GOAT again. They fall off again. They're going back up again. It's another chance. Like the longevity is unbelievable on this guy. In my opinion, when he was on EDG, he was better than Uzi in the LPL. He was fucking sick. When he was in Korea, yeah, he's a guy who died in lane. When he got to the LPL, he fixed that. He actually became fucking super sick. And in fact, when he came back to Korea, it's probably the most underrated aspect. Most players go the opposite. Most players start out super strong mechanically and then go, right, just play the game with your brain from here and take us a few chances like all the junglers. Deft did the opposite. He became an aggressive fucking AD carry. And in fact, there's a reason why there are so many stories from pro players at those worlds he failed that go like this. In scrims, he just shit on everyone. There's a million stories from so many years. It's just for some reason in the main games, mainly it was Worlds. Yeah, I agree. It was a massive fucking choker. I don't know why. I don't even think it was about skill. It was just psychological. And here's the difference. I actually kind of like some of my honourable mentions we might get to in a moment. Listen, I think I'd agree. Ruler, I think has the most polish to his game. Uzi has the most raw brute power. But what I always loved about Deft was he also had finesse when he played a team fight. That was it. It was when he would move around, it wasn't like he was flashing away from this kind of gap closer. It's like he just he did the perfect thing as an AD carry, which it sounds simple. This is why all esports games and sports are about fundamentals. He steps forwards, so you are slightly in range, does the damage, steps slightly back, so you can't do an attack to him. Slightly forwards, does that, and as long as you peel for him, he's going to win a lot of those fights, except if it's game 5 or the fucking world championship, unfortunately. So
in which case, again, he's just going to randomly walk in and die.
Unfortunately,
what
yeah.
the fuck just happened?
So I agree. He's regular season an incredible. And regular season would put him in this candidate. In fact, regular season, I think he's a GOAT candidate. I agree, though. I think playoff, he's an example of where playoffs, it's not just his team. He had some very, very, very good teams, by the way.
He's just one of the person that has all the skill, and you just wish they weren't so much of a pussy when it mattered. Where it's just man up and fucking take what's yours, man. You're
Who's
the best
that guy
in the
in
world.
Europe? Who's that guy in Europe? Now people know why. By the way, if you all watched this as a Westerner, and I agree completely what you said about Deft Thorin, then stop being in love with the guy from Sweden, because he's the fucking same guy in Europe his whole career. And that's why I was trying to encourage him, you daft fucking idiots, to actually learn this lesson and become a great player. Because just like Deft, he had all the stacked teams. He had all the solo laners. And where are all the fucking massive worlds, MS? He didn't get any of them, did he? Never available, no matter who he has. So it's the same story. The difference is you love Reckless's personality, so you ignore that part. Whereas I don't know Deft as a person, so I can just see all his flaws.
So the other thing is that you have to remember, too, that he's in the same boat as Score for losing in the quarterfinals of 2018 Worlds, where he could have easily been a world champion as well, and it could have changed a lot of the conversation. So I don't count that against him.
But he's one of the people that I actually I hate the most that he didn't win that championship.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about Deft. He is the biggest fucking cock tease in League of Legends history, because unlike Ruler, by the way, he has the X factor, right? He has that thing. He has the eye test that makes you fucking want him to do something so badly. And then he just blue balls you every fucking time. That's what's so frustrating about him, is it's if Ruler was losing, would anyone be this upset? No, because he's never shown the flashes of true brilliance in the same way that Deft has. That's what's fucking frustrating about him.
Yeah, that frustration literally makes me value him less than somebody like Ruler, though. The fact that it's you're so good, but you don't do it is it shows some type of I don't know. It just shows.
But
it's
peaks are higher than Ruler. That's the thing. That's what's so annoying.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I hate it even more, right? Because I see when he goes off, and I'm yeah, this is we're about to see the year of Deft, and then where the fuck is it? Where is that?
So all I'm gonna say is the greatest cock tease is not the person who never teases the cock, which is Ruler. It's Deft, who just leaves you just. He's edging you for years.
Here's the analogy. He's not just the cock tease, Monty. He's the one where you just have the most insane first night sex with him on. And so you're always chasing that dragon. You're always trying to get back to that, but you never will. Doesn't matter if you set up the fucking flowers and the music and the thing. Every time it's oh, get too much. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. I've ruined it all. Or, whatever women do. I don't know. It's just a joke, isn't it, guys?
I mean, I would just say that Deft is the type of player, or if you were to put him in that same analogy, right? Deft is the one where you're damn, this is going to be insane. This is going to be the highlight of my life. And then she's fucking wood chipping the dick. She's using she's gnawing on that shit. And it's what the fuck is this? This is so much.
Back. Oh, yeah. Jesus. Oh, that hurts.
It's oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Whatever. Yeah, just keep on going. Whereas Ruler's the one where it's oh, well, she wasn't the hottest, but she we had good synergy. I like what happened throughout. So
listen, she's the girl next door. What's not to like? You grew up with her. Yeah. She's reliable, cooks food, very respectful, great to your parents and grandma.
After you're done, you're damn, where did you learn how to do that? Respect. That's how I feel when it comes to Ruler,